Welcome, everyone. Ready to dive into some mind-bending science? Today, we're pushing past traditional evolutionary biology, exploring where quantum physics, neural networks, and the mysteries of convergent evolution all meet.
It's a fascinating concept to consider that nature's memory might go beyond just genes. We're entering a realm where quantum phenomena could actually be interacting with how life evolves and learns.
And you've brought research on slime molds, specifically Physarum polycephalum. These single-celled organisms, they don't have brains or nervous systems as we understand them, yet they show surprising intelligence, solving mazes, optimizing networks. Could they even be demonstrating some kind of mathematical learning? This brings up the idea of non-local learning. Are they tapping into information beyond their immediate surroundings?
Exactly. The classic evolutionary model relies heavily on random mutations and natural selection. But we see examples of convergent evolution that really challenge that randomness. Take C4 photosynthesis. It's a complex adaptation for plants in arid environments. And it's evolved independently at least 45 times in completely different plant lineages. Statistically, that's incredibly improbable if it were just random chance, especially because those intermediate stages don't offer clear advantages.
So for such complex adaptations to show up again and again in unrelated species, purely by chance, highly unlikely. It seems they might be another mechanism at play.
Imagine finding blueprints for the same intricate machine, but scattered all over the world. You'd start to think there's a common design source. What if there's a way for successful adaptations to somehow influence the chances of similar mutations happening in other organisms, especially those facing similar challenges?
And this is where slime molds come in. They offer a unique way to explore this.
They're fascinating. Single-celled, but multinucleated, they form these huge interconnected networks, almost like intricate mazes, and they exhibit intelligent behavior without a central brain. Solving mazes, finding the best paths between food sources, they even recreate efficient transport networks similar to ones we humans design.
It's incredible how they do this through a decentralized system of chemical signals and the flow of cytoplasm, suggesting a kind of distributed intelligence spread out instead of concentrated. And you're proposing to test whether they can learn and predict mathematical sequences.
That's right. The experiment uses a special petri dish, modular, with chambers arranged in a hub-and-spoke pattern. This eliminates bias from a particular direction. Using food rewards and light signals, we teach the slime mold to anticipate what the next number in a sequence will be.
Starting with simple counting, but then moving on to more complex patterns like odd numbers, perfect squares, and eventually the digits of pi.
Precisely. Pi is the ultimate test because it's a truly unpredictable pattern. If the slime mold can anticipate those digits, it suggests either incredible computational abilities or it's accessing information from somewhere beyond its immediate environment. Which brings us to the idea of a non-local information field.
A field that's somehow influencing evolution and learning across different species.
Think of it like Bohm's implicate order, or the Higgs field. It's a kind of universal memory, influencing how similar solutions emerge in organisms facing similar challenges. And slime molds, with their decentralized intelligence and sensitivity to their surroundings, they could be ideal for testing this. Hashtag TTS The Deep Dive episode 2025-0308, part 2 of 3. As we go deeper into this non-local information field idea, let's think about how such a thing could even work. What mechanisms might be involved.
So we're moving from the what to the how. We've accepted that non-local learning might be possible. Now we're trying to figure out how it happens.
Precisely. And one really intriguing possibility lies in the quantum world, specifically entanglement.
Even physicists have trouble fully wrapping their heads around quantum entanglement. How would that work with non-local learning?
Entanglement suggests that two particles, no matter how far apart they are, can be linked, their fates intertwined. When you measure one, you instantly know the state of the other, even if they're light years away. Imagine two coins, one here, one on the moon. You flip one, it lands heads, and instantly you know the other one must be tails. This connection goes beyond space and time as we normally understand them.
Mind-boggling, for sure. But how does this apply to slime molds and this non-local learning we're talking about?
Well, entanglement might not be restricted to just the subatomic world. Some researchers believe it could operate at larger scales, potentially connecting biological systems in ways we haven't even begun to understand. Maybe slime molds are entangled, enabling the transfer of learned information even when they're physically separated.
That's a bold idea. It suggests we need to rethink our understanding of biology and information altogether.
There's another possibility called morphic resonance. This was proposed by Rupert Sheldrake. It suggests that there are these morphic fields that hold a kind of collective memory for a species. As more individuals learn a certain behavior, it becomes easier for others to learn it too, even without direct contact. It's like a shared learning network, a universal library that a species can tap into.
This theory has been controversial, to say the least. A lot of scientists dismiss it as pseudoscience. But there are some intriguing anecdotes, like those blue tits in the UK that learned to peck open milk bottles. The behavior spread way faster than conventional explanations could account for.
Right. And similar observations in studies with primates and even in how human language develops hint at the possibility that morphic resonance might play a role in non-local learning.
Let's bring in convergent evolution here. We see similar traits evolving independently in unrelated species. Wings in birds, bats, and insects. Totally distinct lineages arriving at similar solutions for flight.
And it's not just physical features. We see convergence in behavior, in biochemistry, in complex adaptations like echolocation in bats and dolphins. Conventional evolutionary theory explains this by saying, well, similar environmental pressures lead to similar adaptations, but the complexity we see and how often convergence happens points to something more going on.
It's as if nature has this library of blueprints, and different species are pulling from the same design.
Exactly. If organisms can tap into a shared information field, it could explain these striking similarities emerging independently across all sorts of different lineages.
Bring it back to C4 photosynthesis evolving independently over 45 times.
Yeah.
The odds of that happening purely by chance are just mind-blowing.
It suggests that nature might not be as random as we've assumed. Maybe there's this subtle non-local influence shaping how life evolves.
And that's what you're aiming to test with the slime mold experiment.
Its strength is that it isolates and measures these potential non-local learning effects while controlling for all those other variables. Having multiple labs involved with a really meticulous design and analysis minimizes the chance of error or bias creeping in. Let's talk about that modular hub-and-spoke petri dish, a key element of the design.
Why is that design so important?
It gets rid of any bias based on direction. The slime mold has to make a decision at the central hub before it extends its network towards a specific chamber. It's like a maze, but with a central starting point. The slime mold has to actively navigate, not just follow a predetermined path. And because it's modular, we can rearrange those chambers, introduce barriers, create more and more challenging patterns for the slime mold to figure out. The hub and spoke also lets us use a neutral signal, like a change in humidity, to mark the start of each trial. We apply it to the central hub so all chambers receive it at the same time, preventing any bias due to timing.
So it's a really fair, unbiased testing ground. Any effects you observe can be confidently attributed to the slime mold actually understanding the mathematical sequence.
Exactly. The design prioritizes eliminating those confounding variables so we can focus on the core questions. Can slime molds learn and anticipate these patterns? And if so, is there evidence that they're learning from each other non-locally?
And what about having multiple labs replicating the experiment? Why is that important?
Replication is the foundation of good science. By having multiple labs, all independent of each other, conducting the experiment using the same protocol and materials, we reduce the risk of error or bias influencing the results.
Like having multiple witnesses to an event, increasing the reliability of the observations. If all the labs see similar patterns, it strengthens the validity of the findings.
Right. And it rules out any lab-specific anomalies. If multiple labs in different locations all see the same results, it's really hard to dismiss it as a fluke. The multi-lab approach makes the experiment much more robust. It means the findings are more likely to represent a real phenomenon, not just random chance or something weird about the lab environment.
Now, about those mathematical sequences used in the experiment, why the progression from simple counting to the digits of pi?
We chose the sequences to progressively test the slime mold's cognitive abilities. We start with simple counting to establish a baseline. Can it understand a basic numerical progression?
Like learning the alphabet before you can read words and sentences.
Exactly. The counting sequence is our control condition. It demonstrates that the slime mold can grasp a basic pattern. Then we introduce more complex sequences, each one posing a new cognitive challenge. The progression to odd numbers, then perfect squares, gradually increases the level of abstraction. The slime mold has to recognize more and more sophisticated mathematical relationships.
And finally, the digits of pi. Why is that the ultimate test?
Pi is irrational. Its decimal expansion goes on forever without repeating. There's no known pattern or formula that can predict those digits with perfect accuracy. If the slime mold can anticipate them, it would suggest a truly remarkable ability. It would either mean it can perform calculations we don't understand, or it's accessing information from beyond its environment. It's like asking it to solve a puzzle with no solution key. Success would strongly suggest either exceptional computational abilities or a connection to a knowledge source beyond anything we currently know.
So how do you teach a single-celled organism to recognize and anticipate mathematical patterns?
We use food rewards to reinforce correct predictions. Oatmeal flakes, a slime mold favorite, are placed in the chamber corresponding to the next number in the sequence.
So if it's learning the odd number sequence and extends its network toward chamber number 7, it finds an oatmeal flake reward.
That's right. The slime mold learns to associate the correct chamber with a reward. As the trials go on, we watch to see if it gets more efficient at reaching the right chamber, which indicates a growing understanding of the sequence.
And you mentioned that neutral signal, the humidity change, which marks the start of each trial. This ensures the slime mold isn't reacting to leftover cues from previous trials.
Absolutely. That neutral signal is crucial. It's a control measure, creating a clean slate for each trial and minimizing the chances of the slime mold learning through unintended cues or associations.
How do you document the slime mold's behavior, and how do you determine if there's evidence of this non-local learning?
We meticulously document everything, often using time-lapse photography to capture the slime mold's movements and growth patterns over time. These recordings allow us to analyze how quickly and efficiently it reaches the correct chamber. It's like filming the slime mold as it solves the puzzle. We can then study the footage to see how its behavior changes and whether it starts anticipating the next number in the sequence.
So the time-lapse recordings provide a lot of data to analyze.
A wealth of data. We can measure how its network grows, how much biomass it allocates to each chamber, and look for any behaviors that might indicate pattern recognition. And remember, we have multiple labs doing this, so we can compare these data sets from different locations, looking for consistent patterns of learning and anticipation across independent slime mold colonies. That comparative analysis makes the evidence for non-local learning much stronger. If colonies in different labs with no physical contact show similar learning curves and anticipatory behaviors, it makes a very strong case for a shared information source.
Now, what about the potential challenges and criticisms? Some people might argue that subtle environmental cues or even contamination between labs could explain the effects you're seeing.
Those are valid concerns, and we've taken them very seriously. Our rigorous experimental design and careful data analysis address those issues head-on.
The controlled environments, the use of those neutral signals, and the independent replication across multiple labs all help to minimize the chances of getting spurious results.
And the statistical analysis is critical. It helps us distinguish real effects from random chance. Finding statistically significant patterns of learning and anticipation would make the case for non-local learning much stronger and weaken those alternative explanations. This is science at its best, designing experiments that can withstand scrutiny and provide compelling evidence for or against a hypothesis.
This slime mold experiment is really pushing the boundaries of what we know about intelligence, about information, about the interconnectedness of life. It's bold research, and the results could have a really profound impact on how we understand ourselves and the world around us. What implications does all this have for our understanding of consciousness?
One of the most fascinating things about this is that it challenges our view of consciousness as something that requires a complex brain. If slime molds, with their simple biology, can exhibit learning and anticipation, it raises some pretty profound questions about what consciousness really is and where it comes from.
So you're saying consciousness might be a more fundamental property of the universe, not limited to just organisms with brains?
It's a possibility that's gaining more attention. The idea of panpsychism, which suggests that consciousness is a fundamental aspect of reality itself, is experiencing a resurgence. Discoveries in quantum physics and the growing recognition that everything is interconnected lend support to this view. If information is truly fundamental and can be accessed and processed by even simple organisms like slime molds, it challenges our very human-centric view of consciousness as something unique to us or to complex nervous systems. If this experiment is successful, it would provide compelling evidence for a kind of non-neural intelligence. It suggests that consciousness might be far more widespread, far more diverse than we've ever imagined. This kind of paradigm shift could revolutionize our understanding of the mind, the brain, and the very nature of reality itself.
What about the implications for our understanding of evolution?
Darwinian evolution focuses on random variation and natural selection, but convergent evolution, where we see similar traits arising independently in different lineages, throws a wrench in that purely random view.
Like we were saying earlier, it's as if nature has this blueprint library, this repository of successful designs that different species can access.
Exactly. If non-local learning is real, it provides a mechanism for this access. Imagine a non-local information field containing the accumulated knowledge and experience of countless organisms throughout evolutionary history.
It's like a cosmic internet where organisms can upload and download information.
Yeah.
That could potentially accelerate evolution and explain this remarkable convergence we see in nature.
It adds another layer to the picture. Instead of just random variation and natural selection, there's also this non-local guidance, a subtle influence shaping the course of evolution.
It's a more holistic view, recognizing that organisms are part of this vast interconnected web of life, sharing information and knowledge across space and time.
This interconnectedness, this flow of information, could be essential for the emergence of complexity and intelligence in the universe. But what about the ethical implications? If organisms can access information non-locally, it suggests that our thoughts, our actions, even our sense of self might be influenced by things outside of our conscious awareness.
Are you suggesting that free will might be an illusion? That our decisions are predetermined by this web of information we're all connected to?
It's a complex philosophical question, and this research doesn't offer any definitive answers, but it definitely challenges our assumptions about how much agency and control we truly have. If we are all connected through this information field, it suggests a level of interdependence that we may not fully grasp.
It's a humbling thought. It makes you question our responsibility for our actions and the impact we have on the world. If our thoughts and choices are influenced by things outside our control, it suggests a deeper level of interconnectedness and a greater need for empathy and compassion.
The ethical implications are profound. It could force us to rethink our legal systems, our social structures, even our understanding of what it means to be human. We're on a journey into uncharted territory here, exploring the mysteries of consciousness, information, and reality itself. And the slime mold experiment is leading the way.
This research on slime molds and non-local learning is a testament to scientific curiosity, to the willingness to explore the unknown. It reminds us that the universe is full of surprises, and our current understanding is just a tiny glimpse into a vast and mysterious reality. Before we wrap up this part, let's touch on the potential applications of non-local learning in technology and medicine. What are your thoughts?
The potential is huge and very exciting. If we can understand and harness the principles of non-local learning, it could revolutionize fields like artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and healthcare.
So we could create AI systems that can access and utilize information beyond their programming, that could lead to breakthroughs in problem solving, pattern recognition, and decision making. AI systems that could tap into the collective knowledge and experience of countless organisms, learning from nature's vast database of solutions and adaptations. A new era of bio-inspired AI, where technology learns from and collaborates with the natural world.
Exactly. AI systems that learn and adapt, mimicking the intelligence of nature itself. And what about the implications for medicine? Could non-local learning lead to new ways of healing and preventing disease?
It would be revolutionary. Imagine therapies that harness the collective healing knowledge of countless organisms, stimulating the body's natural healing processes by understanding these biological information networks at a deeper level. It would be a huge shift from our current model of medicine, which often focuses on treating symptoms rather than addressing the root causes of disease.
The potential is transformative. It could lead to a more holistic and personalized approach to healthcare, one that focuses on restoring balance and harmony within the body's complex information systems. Your idea of a multi-scale competency architecture is very relevant here. It suggests that we're part of this nested hierarchy of interconnected systems, each operating at a different level of complexity and intelligence. Our individual human minds are nested within larger social systems, which are nested within ecosystems, and so on.
Like a set of Russian dolls, with each layer containing and interacting with the layers above and below it.
A good analogy. Each level in this architecture has its own unique competencies, its own way of processing information. What might be a problem at one level could actually be a solution at another.
Can you give us a concrete example?
Think of an ant colony. Each individual ant has a limited set of behaviors and capabilities. But collectively, the colony exhibits remarkable intelligence. They build complex structures, they forage efficiently, and they adapt to changing environments.
The collective intelligence emerges from the interactions of all those individual members, each contributing their limited competencies to a larger, more complex system.
Right. And the same principle applies to human societies. Our individual minds contribute to a larger collective intelligence that's manifested in our culture, our technology, our problem-solving abilities.
And this multi-scale competency architecture extends beyond human society, encompassing the entire biosphere and maybe even the cosmos itself.
Exactly. We're all part of this vast, interconnected web of life. Each organism contributes its unique intelligence to a larger, more complex system. And the non-local information field could be the underlying mechanism that connects these different levels of intelligence, enabling communication and collaboration across scales.
It challenges our anthropocentric view of the world. It suggests that intelligence might be far more widespread, far more diverse than we've ever imagined.
And it underscores the importance of understanding and respecting the interconnectedness of all things. We're not isolated individuals. We're integral parts of a much larger whole, each of us contributing to this grand symphony of life and intelligence that's unfolding across the universe.
What about a citizen science project using the slime mold experiment? Could this research be made accessible to a wider audience?
The idea is to involve the public in this groundbreaking research. Anyone who's interested can participate in the scientific process.
So people who might not have access to labs or specialized equipment could still contribute to real scientific discoveries.
That's the goal. The slime mold experiment is relatively simple to set up. It doesn't require expensive equipment. With some basic materials and guidance, anyone can participate.
We could create DIY kits for the citizen science project. They could contain slime mold cultures, petri dishes, instructions. Participants could document their observations and share their data with a central repository.
Analyzing data from a large and diverse group of participants would give us valuable insights into the robustness of the findings, how generalizable they are. It's a way to democratize science, making it accessible and engaging for everyone.
It also creates a sense of community, of shared purpose. Individuals from all walks of life working together to understand these mysteries of intelligence in the universe.
Imagine a global online platform where participants can design their own mathematical sequences, track their slime mold colony's progress, and compare results with others around the world. It would transform scientific research into this collaborative, interactive experience.
It's a fantastic way to engage the public in scientific discovery and inspire future scientists and explorers. The slime mold experiment, in its simplicity and elegance, could unlock profound insights into the nature of intelligence, information, and interconnectedness. And a citizen science project could make these discoveries accessible to everyone, transforming scientific research from an exclusive endeavor into a collective human adventure. Hashtag TTS, the Deep Dive episode 2025-0308, part 3 of 3. So as we wrap up our deep dives into slime mold intelligence and this whole idea of non-local learning, let's zoom out a bit. What are the bigger implications of all this?
We've seen how these organisms, they seem simple, but they're really challenging some very basic assumptions we've had about knowledge, about evolution, even about reality itself.
We start by noticing that some really complex adaptations, things like C4 photosynthesis, have evolved multiple times independently across wildly different lineages. And the odds of that happening just through random mutations, almost impossible.
Right, which got us thinking about non-local learning. This idea that organisms can tap into information that's beyond their immediate surroundings, that challenges the traditional Darwinian model and suggests there might be something else guiding the evolutionary process.
We explored a couple of possibilities for how this non-local learning might actually work. Quantum entanglement, morphic resonance. Both of those really push our understanding of how information could be shared across such vast distances.
And then there's the experiment itself, with those physically isolated slime mold colonies learning those mathematical sequences, and the big challenge, predicting the digits of pi. If they can do that, it's strong evidence for this non-local information field.
We talked about what this means for how we understand consciousness. If a slime mold can learn and anticipate without a brain, does that mean consciousness is a more fundamental property of the universe than we thought? Maybe it's not just limited to brains?
The idea of panpsychism, that consciousness is just woven into reality itself, is getting more attention. The more we discover about how everything is connected and the role quantum phenomena might play in biology, the more it makes you think. If information is truly fundamental and even simple organisms can access and process it, maybe our human-centered view of consciousness is too narrow.
It's a big shift in perspective. And what about the potential applications of all this in artificial intelligence, biotechnology, medicine? The possibilities are kind of overwhelming.
Absolutely. Imagine if we could build technology that taps into nature's vast intelligence, solving problems in ways we haven't even thought of, developing completely new solutions.
AI that can learn from and collaborate with the natural world, a whole new era of bio-inspired technology. It's exciting to think about.
Truly. And the implications for medicine are just as profound. What if we could harness this collective healing knowledge, stimulate the body's natural healing processes in ways we haven't been able to before?
We could move beyond just treating symptoms and start addressing the root causes of disease, a more holistic, personalized approach to healthcare.
It has the potential to be truly transformative, and it ties in with your concept of a multi-scale competency architecture, this idea that intelligence operates at different levels, from individual organisms to entire ecosystems, all interconnected and exchanging information.
Like a set of Russian dolls, each nested inside the other, each with its own level of complexity and intelligence.
A perfect analogy, and what might be a problem at one level could actually be the solution at another level. Think about the human body. At the cellular level, cancer is a problem, uncontrolled growth. But at the level of the whole organism, that same growth, that same drive is essential for life.
Makes you realize that intelligence isn't just this one thing, it's this multifaceted phenomenon that exists at all these different scales.
And that challenges us to expand our understanding of what intelligence truly is, where it comes from, and how it manifests in the universe. This slime mold research, it's really just the beginning. It's opening up all these new avenues of inquiry, new ways of thinking about life, about consciousness, about the nature of reality itself. It's an invitation to step outside our comfortable assumptions and embrace the mystery and wonder of the universe.
Exactly, and that's what makes science so fascinating. It's this never-ending journey of discovery, pushing the boundaries of what we know and always being open to new possibilities. So to everyone listening, keep that curiosity alive. Keep asking questions, keep exploring, keep your minds open to the incredible potential that exists all around us. And who knows what amazing discoveries await us just around the corner. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.